Hello, if you're there, you just need to give me a wee second to make sure that this is... I've changed the stream key, so I'm not sure if I've done it right in a minute. We're on. Sure if I've done it right, and I can hear you. Right. Just see. Right, take that back to the start. Idiotic comments. Go that. So just bear with me, I'm just making sure I've got some stuff here that I was looking for. Right, seem to be sorted now. How are we all doing? He's alright. What else do I need here? Need that. So, I'll wait till the Screaming Demon goes. Right, so this evening I'm going to be going back over some stuff. This motion, acceleration, gravity, pull, attraction, all these words that are being used and thrown about. So I'm just gonna keep hammering it because for me it's important. You know, people are using these terms and these words, and it's probably a false conception of what they actually think's going on. So we're gonna attempt to understand gravity and suction and attraction and all these words and pull. And all these people keep coming out with. So give me a wee second here. What else was that I needed? Aye. These morons here. Aye. How are you all doing, people? How are we, everybody? Alright. I'll talk a wee bit later on about the channel change that's coming. What's going to be happening here from after this here on in. Pretty much I can just give you a wee quick, if the only thing that's going to be happening on a live is either going to be a presentation, or if somebody requests that they've got something to offer, then by all means you can email me that at the email address above. Other than that, I've not got any patience anymore for opening up to general public. I'm tired of the social aspects of what goes on places like YouTube. I've got too many other things in my life to be going on with, and this topic's always something that's a passion of mine, and you know, my attention sometimes gets pulled and drawn into stuff that it doesn't have to be. You know, the social games that go on here, we'll talk a wee bit about that later on, and you know, some of the things to look out for, and you know, what you can be subjected to. So I'll get to all that. You know, that's secondary to what I want to focus on right now. So, you know, anybody that's coming across this, I say this at the start of every live video, you know, about who I am. I'm just a person who's, you know, inquiring honestly into the aspects of our objective reality, the things that we have taken to be true, things that we have assumed to be true, taken for granted, things that have been taken on hearsay and produced and affirmed by authority. And when you start to remove the fallacious reasoning in your mind, and you start to become somebody who takes control, what I would term a direct realist, of your own faculties and your own discernment, you start to realise that there is so much bullshit going on in the world in regards to what we're told about our objective reality, what people are calling science, in regards to things like the heliocentric globe claim, and also the existential narratives that mathematicians and theoretical physicists are, you know, involving themselves in. For me, science and what I call science is not about any of that. It's not about pursuing narratives or perpetuating narratives. Science is merely an inquiry into the objective. So, you know, an individual messes with aspects of his reality, makes observations about his reality, and sets about to test and see what is holding up. Now, that's the same here for me. And in particular, it comes in when people are making claims to me about what is objectively true, how substances behave and interact with each other, blah, blah. When another human being does that, they must be talking about something that is referenced as practical. There must be a practical reference for it. If somebody is invoking claims about or assertions about our reality that we share, and they do not have practicality to support it, then, you know, I have to ignore it. It's fine if further investigation is going ahead, but anybody with any intellectual honesty would state that from the off, that investigation must be had, and that is where they're endeavouring, that's where their endeavours are, is a pursuit of understanding in whatever aspect it is they're looking at. But when it comes to the globe heliocentric model, there's so many claims made and assumptions made that for me just don't hold up to scrutiny. Again, I'm always looking for the practical reference to support the claims. I am not interested in linguistics, explanations. Okay? Mathematics is a language. It is classed as a formal science because it is only a language. It does not depend upon empiricism. You can start from base axioms and work a mathematical concept or model based on certain assumptions. Now, for me, you have to get to the root and question those assumptions to find out if they are actually true. The way you will find out if they are actually true is by way of practical reference. Interpretations of phenomena also are no good. They are just interpretations. People need to understand that. When it comes to a practical reference, you do not need any language whatsoever. If I want to show you some aspect of your reality or make a claim about some aspect of your reality that you share with me, I can demonstrate that to you. So, in my investigations, the heliocentric globe model has nothing. No direct measurable curvature. No direct measurable proof of any of its claims. No practical references of the theoretical abstract physics that it invokes. It only exists on paper. The globe Earth is a mathematical concept, not a three-dimensional tangible object, which is why it's no measurable. The globe heliocentric model plays upon human perspective, how your eyes are working. They do not factor in any of their optical observations of human perspective, how we view the world and what's actually going on. I'll get to some of that, hopefully. What I'm going to be talking about this evening, if you're new, is one of the main things that holds this whole nonsensical abstract theory together. And that is the force, apparent force, whatever, you know, shifting the goalposts they want to achieve or want to get up to, is this apparent force that pulls and attracts things to its centre. First and foremost, you have to understand that what they're calling gravity, there's two notions of it. You've got Einsteinian and Newtonian. Okay? Now, gravity is not a thing. Again, it's not a three-dimensional, tangible object. It has no form. There's no substance to it. Can't be quantified. What is happening is that people are interpreting natural phenomena and using that interpretation and trying to make it fit an existing narrative, which is the globe model. So it uses language like gravity pulls, objects attract other objects. So what we need to think about is what they actually mean by this. Now, I keep asking these questions to these people. we'll have a look at some of the descriptions of what people think's going on with gravity. Okay. Now again, what I have to highlight here with people is that when we're talking about this, the way in which objects fall and all this theoretical stuff has got absolutely nothing to do with establishing and measuring the dimensions of the earth beneath your feet. As far as I'm concerned, the measurement of the earth beneath your feet is already done. There is an assumption made that is then applied to all practical applications that we use every day in reality, and that is that the earth is a plane. It's an ever-extending planar surface. I'm talking about that from the water. Any standing body of water, regardless of how large you want to make it, will form an equal horizontal plane. So that means that there's no deviation in elevation at any given point upon a standing body of water. Okay? So when we establish a point of reference and we're talking about level, we're talking about no deviation in altitude from that point of reference. So I've got other things lined up here that we need to have a look at, datum lines, in regards to laying tracks, road networks, whatever else, and how we assume a level plane beneath our feet. Same in aeronautics when we're talking about, air travel. If you look into the diagrams and the methodologies of air travel, they assume the exact same thing. A level plane beneath our feet. Again, when I'm utilising and using that, I'm talking about the practical of level, not the abstract notion of level that the heliocentric globe cult wants to invoke. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, that's already established. What we need to understand is how to break apart the sophistry of this cult and its gobbledygook nonsense that it spews out continually. Now, it's hugely important to me, and I'm passionate about it because, I was subjected to this as a child. Many children are being subjected to this use of language, linguistics, sophistry, and NLP. The globe earth is a religious symbol, backed by religious texts and religious priest-like figures. So, all that I'm trying to achieve here is to demonstrate and show to you the absurdities of the things that these people are claiming. So, let's just first have a wee chat about pull and attraction. Now, I keep posing these questions to people. Anybody that's been here that already knows this, you already know it. So if you're looking for entertainment and new fantasticalness, you better go somewhere else, because repetition must be had. We have to keep going over and over these things until people start to grasp it, until the dishonest ones out there start to concede that they're being dishonest and that they have it wrong. So when people are talking about pull, okay, pull is a description of bringing something closer to something else. Push is a description of taking something further away from something else. What we're interested in is the mechanisms behind motion and acceleration. In order to achieve bringing something closer to you or making something go further away from you, you need to apply some sort of pressure, okay, which you could use the word push. So everything requires a push source, right? Something interacting with something else and having an effect. Okay? Now, when the globe is talking about attraction and pull, it's talking about invisible stuff. We can get into aspects here of looking at it as like some sort of flow of energy or matter and what might be causing that flow. But we can go to that. But this is, as far as I'm aware right now, this is not what they're invoking. Although the Einsteinian perspective of gravity is something like a flow, but it's on a 2D plane. A flat, linear plane. So, to me, I keep asking them, what is this gravity doing? This invisible force? Does it have invisible Remember, you know, every practical reference that I can demonstrate to you and that you can demonstrate to yourself, motion being achieved requires a pressure from any direction in order to make something move. Okay? So is this gravity? Does it have invisible, like, rods or threads that reach out? So we've got an object. And this gravity has invisible threads that are reaching out and latching on either by hooks, hooking themselves in, or like suction cups that are latching themselves onto objects, and then it's being retracted inwards towards a centre. Or are these invisible tentacles coming out and going round the back of the objects and applying a pressure inwards? Because that's exactly what would have to be going on. And this is where they start to dance and avoid and try and ridicule the factual aspects of real physicality in regards to motion and acceleration. Now, I seen somebody earlier on a hangout. They were talking about suction cups. Now I'm just going to show you this. And again, the same question was posed.
So
we're not interested in any of the gobbledygook, we're just interested in the physics here.
And two on the shoulder. It's quite easy for me to. So you can see as we apply this.
Okay, so in this video here, you can see he's applying a pressure and he's pumping the air out of there, okay, by pressing it out. That's vacating the area in here, okay. Now this person's trying to invoke that there's a pull happening here. You can see the skin, the flesh, you know, raising into this area. So the question I'm asking him is that does the air within the suction cup, is it, you know, does it have invisible rods or hooks that hook into the skin or attach onto the skin so that as the air moves outwards, it draws the skin inwards? Or is it that the body's pressurised and that we can't have a vacuous empty space because it doesn't exist? And as you try to achieve that, whatever is there is going to try and fill that void. It's going to be pushed inwards by everything else on the outside. It's going to seek to rush in there. Again, just you can understand this type of flow, like when you pull the plug out of your bath. Okay? Now, all that mass rushes in there. Right? Something similar here. You're creating an empty space, or trying to achieve an empty space. And that is then pushing inwards into that region. It must be, because just as I say, the air that was already in there, this doesn't have invisible suckers that are latching onto the skin. Does it? Or invisible hooks that go into the skin in order to draw the skin into that area. So the same for gravity. When they say pull and attract and all this stuff, what are they talking about? You continually ask them to define and demonstrate what pull is or attraction, and they just dance. They'll jump to electrostatics or magnetism. Well, for me, these things would conform to everything else we understand and know, although we don't have a full understanding of them right now. But for me, it must be some sort of flow. So as I said before, you make a whirlpool in water, or you use a turbine, you know, jet engine in water, you understand the principle. Okay? We're talking about movement of some ethereal substance like an ether, or whatever may be there. Must be something there. Because we can rule out fantasy, imagination, magical stuff of like a situation like that, or the air's getting invisible rods that hook into the skin and take it inwards as the air goes outwards. That's just nonsense. Total and utter nonsense. And the same for gravity. So let me just stop this a wee minute. I'm going to come back and share another video in regards to gravity. Okay, it's not for me that, right? That's fine. Is the phone working? I can put the phone on near the end of this. So let me see. So, people with me so far? Any questions so far? Try and pose some questions that, you know, a new onlooker may be asking. As this Spurs came in here, you know, this is the thing I was trying to, it was him that was showing this, and this is what I was asking. You know, for whatever he's trying to invoke with pull. Well, what's pulling? The ear? The ear hooks itself into the skin, or attaches invisible suckers onto the skin and draws it in. What are you talking about? So he's saying it's invisible. So apparently air now has got invisible like hooks. So like in the situation of the suction cup, you know, the air that's already in there, it knows that it's being pumped out, right? So it casts out hooks or suctions on the end of invisible like fishing lines or something and latches onto the skin. And then as it gets pumped out, it draws it inwards. Like a winch. Or a fishing reel. This is the stupidity of people. Read the definition of what? I'm not going to put my attention to any of your fucking bullshit or anybody's bullshit, okay? I've had enough of this now. So, read the description of what? Hurry up before I move on to the next aspect here. So when people are talking about, you know, things falling due to gravity, right, I'll show you the guys at Conspiracy Cats is admitting they don't know the mechanisms, they don't know what it actually is. Okay? Now anybody invoking pull or attraction, it's nonsensical jargon. They are only words to use to denote direction, something coming closer to something else. That's what they're talking about. I'm talking about the physicality, the physics of how that's achieved. Something must be pressing on something else. That's what I understand. That's what I know in every single practical reference that I can give you. The invisible gaseous substance surrounding the earth. I don't know what that means. That's the last time I'm reading any of your shites. Son, you've not got any answers. Okay? It's nonsense. In your scenario of the suction cups, the air's no casting anything out to latch onto the skin. Suction cup is creating a low pressure environment. The higher pressure outside it is trying to get in there. That's what's happening. That falls in line with motion. Okay? Okay. Yes, so again I'll ask you this. Does this invisible stuff, this air, or whatever it is you're trying to invoke, is it casting out invisible, you know, rods or wee hooks or suction cups? I mean, what do they look like? Do they penetrate the skin? For people that don't think there's air pressure, what I suggest you do is get a long piece of wood, okay? Put it on a table so that the wood hangs off the table. Now cover the portion that's on the table with like a bit of newspaper, right? Lie it flat on it with a piece of newspaper and then batter the bit that's hanging off the end of the table and watch the wood snap. How's that? So anyhow, let's just move on. Gravity waves and all this stuff as well. You start to realise that, we'll get to weight, okay, mass, inertia, and weight, and what gives things weight. And again, I'm going to get back to what I've spoke about previously, regardless of whether people like it or not. Right? Because I don't care where the investigation takes me. The investigation takes me to a place that people don't like. I couldn't give a fuck. You can call me all sorts of fucking names until you've got something practical to bring to the table to show me otherwise. That's where I'm going. Number two, I'll get to the emails once I get through what I want to get through here. Okay, so let me just have a wee viewing of this video.
Questions. I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie. Ever since the apple fell on Isaac Newton's head that fateful day, scientists have been working hard to understand the mysterious force that is gravity. Lucky for us, they've learned a great deal, and the knowledge is out there for all to see. But as with many such concepts, while most people have a...
Many such concepts, because it is a concept. Now here, you can see what I was talking about earlier. You get this three-dimensional, idiotic cartoon sphere sitting in a linear 2D plane. Just as I was talking about earlier, like making a whirlpool in water, okay, or getting a, say you had a small beach ball, okay, and next to it you had a bigger beach ball and you pushed it downwards, okay, that's going to cause a dimple in the water. The water's going to push inwards into that direction, and that beach ball is going to get pushed in by the inrushing water into that region. So what are they talking about here? There's a three-dimensional cartoon sphere sitting on a body of something. They call it space-time. What's that? Can that be quantified? Does it have substance and mass to it? What is it? Nothing. It's gobbledygook. There's issues surrounding this model of a globe Earth, and this is why they're invoking all this rubbish to try and support it. Because they know something has to be moving. Something has to be moving and coming into contact with something else so that there's resistance. And then the massive objects now have weight.
A grasp on it, rather few understand completely how it works.
Well, exactly. How it works, because it's nonsensical crap. That's how nobody can get a grasp on it. It's lies, it's bullshit. Misdirection.
Remedy that. If you want more science videos...
Well, let's remedy that. This Smarty Pants here's going to fix it all for us.
Our biggest science questions playlist on the channel. Now get ready, it's time to ask the question, how does gravity work? Sir Isaac Newton discovered gravity in 1687.
No, he never discovered gravity. Come up with an abstract concept about what he thought was going on.
When, as legend tells, an apple fell from a tree and struck him in the head. It's likely that events didn't transpire in quite this way, but the story is a good one. Regardless of the particulars of his epiphany, Newton was instrumental in developing our...
We could go on about how work was already achieved and done by the tree and its growth, pushing upwards, pushing outwards, from an inner core and pushing outwards in every direction, from the trunk, the branches, right into the seed and expanding outwards from the centre. Pushing outwards. No pulling inwards towards centres. Pushing outwards from a central point. Okay?
Understanding of gravity, when he published his book, The Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica. In said book were his theory of calculus, his three laws of motion.
Funnily enough, Sir Isaac Newton. What's that abbreviated?
And of course, his theory of universal gravitation. Since then, scientists have expanded on the theory, and we now have a solid grasp on this seemingly...
See again here, this is what I'm saying. This is why they show you all this rubbish, like your granny's knickers stretched over barrels and drums. right? Because they have to utilise real tangible physics like flow and pressure, right? And then they need to extrapolate that out into abstract nonsensical land to try and fit this cartoon sphere with people upside down relative to you, what bodies of water bending and clinging to this nonsensical potato rock. And how you can have pressurised gaseous environment adjacent to vacuums without equilibrium happening. This is why they're coming out with all this nonsense cartoon crap. They need to take real physical references and try and superimpose it onto a cartoon.
Mystical force that keeps things together. In the Newtonian view, gravity is seen as one of the four fundamental forces of nature. The other three.
So they're calling it a force. Now, a force for me is something that makes something else move. So a force would be pressure being applied to something. That's what makes things move. That's what makes things accelerate in actual reality.
Electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force. These forces aren't derived from other things, they simply exist and act with it.
So even that, when they're showing you this depiction, it's almost like the what I referenced earlier of water flowing down a drain. Right? So what are they getting at? Is whatever this is, air and stuff, is it all flowing down through or at a central point? Is there a fucking sinkhole at the centre of the earth plane? Is that what's happening? Because all that, what I'm saying, makes a lot more sense and follows, deductive inquiry into every other aspect that you could apply to this idiotic model. But they're not invoking it like that. They're insisting it's attraction, it's pull, it's all these words that don't have any practical reference. There's no physicality to pull and attract. They're descriptors of direction in regards to one object and another object. Pulled closer, pushed further away. What makes it happen? What makes both directions happen? Oh, that's right, you need something pressing on it for any given point to push it into a certain direction.
Their own accord. However, it should be noted that gravity isn't always seen as a force, as Newton would describe it. According to
Oh, no, again it is.
Einstein's general theory of relativity, gravity is best seen as a consequence of the curvature of space-time, caused by the uneven distribution of...
So this is what I'm saying. Okay, so now they invoke this, right? Because just having an object there and another one there, and it's somehow going, to it by what again? Invisible stuff that come out and latch on, either stick themselves onto it, or hook themselves into it, or go round the back of it and bring it towards. They know that's idiotic garbage. So this is why they've come up with this nonsensical garbage. Oh, there's an invisible fabric that's two-dimensional linear plane, and the Earth's sitting in it, and that's causing it all to bend in, so anything that comes into that region is being pushed in by the flow of this invisible fabricy stuff. It's being pushed from the back of it inwards.
Of mass. This theory has expanded on Newton's, making it more generally applicable. However, for the sake of brevity, this video will focus on the Newtonian view of gravity, as it remains a fairly accurate description and provides a nice groundwork for understanding later theories. We may touch on the theory of relativity as well as other gravitational theories in later videos. So back to Newton's gravity.
I noticed that the only thing you get when they're talking about this stuff's cartoons. Sketches on blackboards, wee diagrams, language. There's nothing practical to reference.
According to the theory of gravity, all objects with mass are drawn to one another. Objects with greater mass have stronger gravitational pulls.
So again, how's that happening? So we'll take one isolated object in space. What's it doing to what is this thing that it's surrounded by? What's it made of? So you've got an object in it, and it somehow contorts that region, then anything that comes into the vicinity of where it's contorted gets pushed in by a flow of something else that's going into the region. I mean, what are they talking about?
This pull was instrumental in the forming of the many planets, stars.
This pull, again, this pull was instrumental. Asking the questions again. Alright, so you've got a planetoid. What's it doing? Casting out invisible lines with hooks in it. Oh, I'm fishing for moons. Oh, I've hooked one. Now I'm going to fucking wind you in, you bastard.
And moons in our universe, and continues to act on and within these celestial bodies. The gravitational pull of our sun keeps the planets in orbit around it, just as the
Gravitational pull, 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 pull. So is it a big fishing competition then? Huh? Or your planetoids in your vacuum of space? Huh? At the centre of them all, there's a wee dude with a fishing line, an invisible one. Fuck me, that's some cast. That's some fucking cast, by the way. Oh, 14.5 billion light years. How long is it taking you to wind that fucker in? Why are you not winding it all the way in? I just want to wind it in enough so that it can keep this planetoid company. Now I'm going to change my invisible lines to invisible rods, right, that just keep it there. So it's a nice solid structure, and then it will not come in any further. What the fuck are these people rattling on about? It's absolute crazy lunatic nonsense.
of the Earth keeps our moon in orbit. But how do we figure out the amount of gravity in any given case? Well, as with many things,
the amount of gravity. It's like it's a stuff. It's a stuff now. Can I have 4 cups, please? Can I have 4 ounces of gravity, thanks? You get 4 cubic meters of gravity. How about 14 square feet of gravity? Can you get me some? What are they talking about? Bullshit is what they're talking about.
Equation for that. Newton's equation for gravity.
Oh, I've got an equation for that. I've got drawings. I've got wee squiggles and drawings.
So gravity.
Can't give you any. I can draw it.
Or F is equal to the product of the masses of the 2 interacting objects divided by the squared distance between the center of these 2 objects times g. G representing the gravitational constant, which is known as the constant of proportionality, or colloquially as the big G. In case you were curious, the gravitational constant is 6.754 times 10 to the negative 11. Essentially what this formula states is that the gravitational force depends on the mass of the objects in question, as well as how far apart they are. The farther apart the objects are, the greater the mass must be in order for gravity to act. When an object...
That means that, you know, if it's bigger, it's got a bigger guy at the centre with a bigger fishing rod that you can cast out.
Begins falling, gravity accelerates it at a rate 9.8 meters per second until it reaches terminal velocity. This means that each second the object will speed up by about 9.8 meters per second.
Everything accelerates at the same rate. So, what's happening? Got a few choices. Well, we can go back to the invisible lines being cast out, or there's something pushing the things down, or the earth is in motion, straight line motion, or it could be orbiting on some sort of fucking pole or whatever. And this is why they always invoke the swinging the fucking bucket shite. Because then you've got a centrifugal force where everything gets pushed to the base of the fucking bucket. But these are physical references. The pulley shite, invisible stuffs. That's that. There's no reference for that. That's imagination land. Fairy tales.
Second, this is true of all objects regardless of their mass. This is because while an increase in the object's mass does not increase the gravity that will work on it, it also increases the force necessary for gravity to pull it.
No, because it can have mass, inertia, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it doesn't have any weight. When something's falling or in free fall or whatever, it doesn't have any weight. The only way you get weight of objects is when the earth comes into contact with it and now there's a resistance. So again, is it something flowing in and through the earth? So coming from top down, flowing inwards. And there's a build up of particulates that we call earth. and then that object comes into contact with it and there's a resistance there. But the flow of this stuff back behind it, still pressing and flowing through, is what gives it its weight and keeps it in contact. Or is it the earth that's in uniform motion, that's keeping contact with it, that's creating the resistance? Because it's certainly no invisible fucking lines being cast out and doing something.
For this reason, despite the difference in mass, a basketball and a bowling ball will fall at almost exactly the same rate. What can slow an object down, however, is increased air resistance. A flat piece of paper will fall much slower than one crumpled in a ball. This understanding of gravity is highly useful and predictive in most realms.
Aye, because there's more surface area to be resisted by the mass that is the air.
And is excellent when looking at everyday cases. It allows us to understand that it is the great mass of the Earth that causes us to remain firmly planted on the ground, regardless of what the flat earthers may claim. It lets us
Fuck is even involved with flat earthers? Well, sir, whoever your life's biggest questions, can you offer up the physicality, the actual mechanical, the devices, the interaction between these objects? Huh? What's it up to? How's it achieving any of this stuff? Is the earth warping something and it's all flowing in?
Predict where an object will fall and how quickly it will do so. Should an apple fall from the sky, we won't curse the heavens for launching a magical vitamin-filled attack on us. We understand that it was gravity that caused it to occur. And despite Bill O'Reilly's insistence to the contrary, we can in fact explain why the tides go in and out. It's due largely to the gravitational pull of the moon. That said, gravity doesn't work.
So here we go. Pull! The moon. The moon's causing the tides, it's pulling. How's it achieving this? So the moon's getting visible stuff that can hook into the water. Every wee tiny fucking strand of all the oceans. Is it all wee individual hooks? Is it one big massive suction cup that latches on and then latches through the layers of the water? And then winds it in? What the fuck are these idiots rattling on about?
The same way across the Earth. There are certain anomalous regions where gravity acts rather differently. For example, many parts of the Hudson Bay region in my fine country of Canada seem to be missing some of their gravity. This phenomenon was first noticed.
What about the fishermen's not got enough invisible lines at the centre of the cartoon sphere? Maybe he thinks the areas are no good. I'm not going to catch planetoids from there, so I'm not going to cast any lines out. What else? Let me just come back and see if you're with me so far. Do you understand what I mean? Pull and attract. What's the mechanisms? This is exactly it. What is the interaction? This is the point I'm making. There has to be some form of interaction between two objects when they're talking about attract and pull. So what are they imagining this interaction is? That's the only thing I can come up with. That it's warping something that's causing a flow inwards, or it's casting shit out that attaches on like a fucking sucker, or hooks, or that goes round the back. That's what would have to be happening. There's no other way to make, it can't have invisible tentacles that come out to just there and then somehow just make it Do you understand what I mean? The warping, aye. The warping of something, some fabric, which has to be, must be something of substance. Chris F.E. Jackson, how you doing? Do you understand what I'm getting at here, Chris F.E. Jackson? Good, Kelvin Currans. Push easy to understand. Nice one. So all this talk about suction, when we're talking about air, when you're creating a lower pressure region, it's the higher pressure region that's rushing in there and pushing anything that's there, like your vacuum cleaner. And it's that inrushing air that pushes the particulates into the chamber to collect. So, what else? They'll even acknowledge the upward force, resistive force on the earth. So why is it people are scared to go to these places and maybe consider, as I said to you before, object, three-dimensional empty space, his mass, right, inertia, whatever the fuck you like, has no weight, has no direction. Where's it going to get it from? It either has to be suspended in some fluid-like stuff, and that fluid is flown to a region and it catches it on its way. Then this thing would have to come into, you know, an area where there's something to resist it as the flow is pressing it inwards, and then it's now got a resistance, so now it has a weight to it because it's got something to resist it. And when it comes into contact with that resistive aspect, it now has a direction, because its direction for down is the point of where it came into contact with the thing that was resisting it. So the stuff flowing inwards, and it's been pushed inwards, and it comes into contact with other stuff that's got clogged up in the sinkhole or whatever the fuck it is, and now it's got resistance, so now it's got weight. Oh, three-dimensional space doesn't have, you know, weight, nothing to resist it, doesn't have direction, and something else comes into contact with it. Now it's got a resistance to give it weight and direction again. So there's the two options. Stuff flowing inwards through a point, and stuff's building up. And now there's resistance for other objects made of other materials. The materials here can resist it, so it's got weight and it's got direction. Or something like the earth is coming into contact with it, pressing against it, and now it's got the same resistance, weight and direction. Because this here can't cast out invisible stuff to hook onto it, or go up here and hook round the top of it and reel it in the way like a fucking fishing line. That's it as well, Andrew. Execute200's pointing that out. I meant to bring that up. You know, the discussion of objects falling always seems to start with the object just appearing in mid-air. Just as I referenced earlier. You know, work had to be done. Work has to be done to put anything in the air. So before man starts messing with it, things are already in an equilibrium. And things don't want to go anywhere unless they're acted upon by something that presses on them. And the amount of stuff being pressed onto them is going to dictate how far and how fast that thing is going to move. Jack Stander, I'm not making assertions that that's exactly what's going on with the Earth before anybody jumps to it again. We're talking about working things to an understanding of what could be going on. And again, as I said at the beginning of this, I do not care where it takes objective fact and deduction of what we observe and we test is where I'm going to go. Things that are on the Earth are still trying to get through it. So, this is the point, Chris. What do you think's going on? Is there a flow of something that's working through the Earth, flowing inwards and through, that's the cause of accelerating things in that direction? Because that version, all the Earth coming into contact, they work. They're more realistic than pulling. Gravitational field strength. So what? The flow of something that's pressing on it to try and take it down through the Earth? Or the Earth coming into contact with it? Don't be invoking that it's pulling somehow, because that's just total and utter nonsensical garbage. Way after vodka then, flat gold music. But this is it, Chris. You know, it's the same for me. I don't know. But I'm just questioning. And I'm questioning the claims that are being made. Now, as far as I can tell, this attractive, pulley nonsense is just that. It's garbage. It's nonsensical gobbledygook. Unless they're going to assert that there is some invisible tentacles that latch onto stuff somehow. It's either a flow of some sort that's creating the applied pressure that creates acceleration, or it's the Earth coming into contact with everything else. So, that's where I'm at. It can't be anything else, unless somebody's got something to offer me. Gravitons have been proven to lie, whatever. Ripples of something through what? Ripples through the ether? Mass attracting mass, university level fucking stuffs and all that, right? This is the point though, you moron, listen. Right? Okay, you've got one mass attracted to another mass. What is it about this mass that's bigger than this one? What is it doing to the other thing? Is it warping some fabric around it that causes it to flow inwards? So it's a flow that's rushing in there and pressing the other thing in towards it? Or again, is it invisible stuff that come out here and stop and somehow magically just make it come with it? Or is it hooking into it, going round the back of it, attaching onto it? What the fuck's going on? You explain. Bending space-time. Space-time's not a fucking substance, you utter creepy moron. It's not a thing. It's a mathematical concept. We're talking about physics, no abstract language. Are you talking about it like, put fucking feathers or confetti in your bath and then fucking pull the plug out? Is that what you're talking about? That the water's flowing into that region and that's been carried along with it. And then it comes into contact with the grate that resists it and then it builds up. These people are morons, honestly. How you doing, Harry Growler? Nice to see you, mate. No, you're misunderstood, Fraz Dog. I'm asking for the interaction between the objects. What are the mechanisms? How is it being achieved? Oh, you're going to say, we don't know. We don't know. Well, we can rule out nonsense. Invisible tentacles that don't touch anything, but somehow make stuff move. Or invisible tentacles with invisible hooks that get through. Get to fuck. Now, Fraz Dog's getting ignored for being a moron. Just block Fraz Dog. Get him to fuck. Can't be bothered with stupidity anymore. Stuart Lundy, how you doing, mate? That's it, Phil Jones. People are just, silly, and a bit retarded when it comes to these things. They think pull's a force. He is, Tanya. He's healed rapidly. Aye, Chris, some gobbledygook like that. So, that's it, Jack Standard. A pushing force or a field that we are moving in. And it's having an effect. Something's given direction. How do we get weight? You're standing on the earth right now and you have weight. You can feel it. So what's causing that? Is there something surrounding you that's pressing you inwards? Is the earth the one that's coming into contact with you so that you've got resistance to give you your weight? How you doing, Gav? Acceleration is causing it. For fuck's sake. What's accelerating? Gently's channel. What's accelerating? Hurry up. We've got all night to sit here and wait. Well, what gives it weight, Antoine Levy? What gives anything weight? Because mass, inertia, it doesn't have weight until there's something else to resist it. Right, I'm going to get Gavin here to have a discussion about this again. So all we're doing here is we're asking questions and pointing out the absurd notions that people have about forces and how they're interacting with stuff. And again, I'm going to keep reiterating this. I do not care about your insecurities or what propaganda you have bought into. Wherever this investigation takes me, that's where I'm going. Because that's what I care about. Establishing the facts. Gravity is the warping of space-time, so we're back to this again. So Gently's channel is invoking that space-time is some sort of fabric, right? And there's a flow to it, like it's a fluid of some kind. And what you're saying, that it's flowing through the earth. So it's coming inwards and flowing. So what is it? Is there a black hole or some sort of sinkhole at the fucking centre? And it's flowing in through that and pushing anything else that gets caught in its flow.
All right, my man.
How's it going, mate?
Nice sound. Phil,
Good.
can't see you, but
Oh, hold on. Hold on.
yeah,
Aye, hold on a wee second. Can you hear me?
I can hear you all right. I know it's
See
you.
you, aye, right. I just had to change that camera thing there. So let me see here. How do I cover this? And will that be shown if I share you here? Hold on a wee second, Gav.
Right, well.
We should be alright. You hear me?
I can indeed.
Alright. How's it going, mate?
Aye, sound. Right. All good. Evening, folks.
Hi. So I'm just back to discussing this stuff again, you know, because I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go. So
Absolutely. I was reminded of it this week, Dale. There's so many things in daily life where, you know, as a direct realist, you get confronted with the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
You know, the discernment between pushes and pulls, the, you know, understanding the sophistry in the language and what these things mean. And the trigger, or not the trigger, but one of the pieces of news items that I heard was of this guy Epstein in America, who you know, a convicted paedophile that had lots of people apparently. I mean, I'm not really worried about all the situation that stopped there, whether, you know, people were on board the plane and doing stuff. But anyway, he was being kept in a jail for a high trial where they were going to get lots more information out of him. And he died, you know, apparently of suicide,
Yeah.
right? And they were talking about the forensics of the situation, that he broke some of these bones in his throat, which is not an easy thing to do if all you're doing is trying to, you know, strangle yourself or tie onto a piece of rope or something, because you need velocity. You need a force to be able to break bones like that, right? And all he had was a 5.5 foot bunk bed in his jail, apparently. Right, and he tied a bed sheet, and he apparently jumped off, and they found him on his knees, right? So he managed to somehow land on his knees, and apparently this velocity, right, this force, was enough to break the bones in his neck, right? I mean, there's other people out there say he's been Arkansas, right, which is the word for whatever, you know, a Clinton hitman.
Right.
But anyway, that triggered the whole thought about, well, you know, what is the definition of force? And I think we've talked about this before. Newton defined in his Principia 2 different types of forces. And it's basically a label being attached to some quantity of measurement. And what is, again, a quantity of measurement? Well, that's where you have to differentiate between physics, where you have a quantity of a substance and it's attached to a substance, and you're talking about the properties and behavior of this substance, or you're just attaching a label to an abstract concept, which is supposed to, you know, how should I say, take care of lots of substances in a generalized fashion. Yep. So you've got this language, basically of mathematics, that has divorced itself from talking about real substances, but takes an abstract term and talks about that. And I'm going to try and give a couple of examples so that you know what I mean. I mean, we've talked enough about practical engineering has to be in proportions that are engineerable, right? So that the whole of physics is always to do with ratios. You know, so any ratio you've got, a 3, 4, 5 triangle or a proportion, you know, anytime you're doing things in the physical world, all you're really doing when you're showing a natural law or making an experiment that repeats itself is you're demonstrating a proportion. That's all you're doing. I'll take water in a container, for example. If you change the size of the container, the level will drop. Right? So things are in proportion to each other depending on certain quantities. And it can be a quantity of length, a quantity of surface, a quantity of volume, or a quantity of time. these are the 4 things that we know for sure are always there.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't think of anything else other than those 4. Try it. You know, there is nothing else that is attached to substance that, or to physical things and physical life apart from those 4 things. Everything else is actually described in terms of those 4 things.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Speed.
Yeah.
Speed is defined as the distance over time.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. Acceleration is defined as the speed over time. So they've taken that first label, which was distance over time, and now acceleration is defined in terms of that label.
Yeah.
So they'll go off defining labels and defining other things in terms of those labels, but they could just as easily have defined everything in terms of those 4 things. It would just have been a very horrible maths paper, Dale, that nobody would have understood and would have been very difficult to work through. You know, I can always call acceleration, instead of writing the little symbol A, I can say it's distance over time squared. Right? But if I have to do all that in my mathematical papers without assigning a label that I can work with easier, then the whole of the mathematics gets extremely difficult. And that's what Newton did. Newton made these simplifications with labels so that when you're working with those things, it was easier to work with, but you were just attaching a descriptor to it. And the 2 forces that he came up with, which are all defined, you can all link them back to these 4 quantities of surface, length, volume, and time, where he was making a mathematical description of, okay, how do we measure quantities? We can measure things in terms of time, we can measure things in terms of distance, but I'm going to give these things labels and abstract it away from the substance. And that's where mathematics leaves physics, right? Just to be very clear.
Well, that's
and if you understand how that language gets taught, which I was, Dale, you know, for the newbies who don't know me, I was taught that language, and I believe that language to be reality, rather than looking at the physical substance and the mechanical model and the, you know, the actual physics of this world.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was
Sorry,
talking.
I've been rambling a bit there, but you know, I wanted to just bring it concise that people understand that, you know, it's the words that are confusing us.
Well, that's what I was pointing at earlier, you know, when they're showing these cartoon depictions of the warping and bending of space-time. For me, what they're actually doing is taking physicality, like the flow of water, or, you know, something like water flowing down a sinkhole, or, you know, making an impression on something like the lycra with, you know, a weight, you know, pressed into it. They're taking physicality and as you say, extrapolating it into this abstract, encompassing bullshit of what surrounds us and how it's actually functioning. That doesn't make any sense, because it has to fall in line with the laws that we understand and the practical references that we can look to. Now again, going back, obviously you've heard this gravity of pull and attract, you know, and I can take it you get what I mean. You know,
absolutely, my man.
Another object, what's it doing?
Simple, it's not difficult to understand.
No, but this is what I'm trying to clarify with these people, and they're just avoiding. You know, they're either just trying to ridicule and you know, obfuscate it, or they're just using word salad and all sorts of nonsense, you know?
I think, again, there's the 2 types. There's the ones deliberately trying to obfuscate and confuse and disparage and discourage, and then there's people like myself, Dale, who was just deluded, you know, and thinking that was in some form reality, and the better your maths was, the better you understood things. And it's just not like that. I mean, that's how they can actually sell us the bullshit that we can't trust our senses, that, you know, ignore the physicality of water, you know. We can make it do absurd things and images from space, right? But, I mean, that's just absurd, you know, to me now. And it should be to anybody else, even those trained in those mathematical physical languages, Dale. Because if they see where it actually is rooted from, it's all part of this quantification, the mapping of human sense observations and experiences into something that mathematics calls quantities. And the quantity is things that can be measured. It's like synonymous with the word measurement. You know, if you talk about measuring things and you're talking about quantifying, but then you have to say, well, what can I quantify? Only the physical real world. That's the only one I know. I don't believe in fairies.
No.
Right? Or magical Harry Potter, you know, fucking Attractus Maleficus, or, you know, whatever the fucker. You know what I mean? It's you know, and if people, you know, get that, and especially the academics that, you know, they've just been lost in this language, deliberately or unintentionally, I don't give a fuck, but they need to snap out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you considered it then, since I've been kind of talking about this? I've not spoke to you. Direction and weight in your mind, what gives things those?
Well, it has to be an applied pressure of some sort on a specific surface area, and it'll be going in a specific direction if we are in some kind of plenum, Dale. I mean, there's, again, we're back to this velocity thing. Applied pressure will produce a velocity in a substance, in a mass moving forward.
Yeah.
And first of all, you can think of it in a billiard dish in a horizontal way, and then think of the perpendicular one where things are falling in the plenum, right? And those things are obviously you require that to get going. So there's no other way to do it. That's what gives things weight.
Well, this is what I'm saying. For me, getting weight, you have to have something to resist it. So there has substance. To be so substance has to be there to resist it, so that you have that weight. But what puts us in that position then is it's either, for me, it's like something flowing inwards and through that's pushing everything, trying to push everything down through the earth, or it's the earth that's in uniform motion coming into contact. I mean, I can't find any other possible scenario that could be going on.
No, well, I'm fully with you on that. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether mathematicians now take abstract models, give things labels, and say that they're quantifying and measuring things with instruments that are out with our control, right? And out with our ability to know whether they're true or not, mostly based on visible observations, when they talk about all the shite happening in the sky. We can't allow them to do that, Dale, right? We have to either hold them to one of these two explanations, or if they've got another one, then come up with it. But it has to be, tied to our common senses and to our ability to quantify the world around us. And I mean each and every one of us, not some, guy in an astronaut suit faking it.
Aye. So even when they look at the laws of motion, they've got it with the Big Bang, so that would have been the initial pressure that's putting things into motion. But then this spinning thing, because again, things want to keep going in that same direction, but they're invoking this spin, which again just throws everything away, because then you've got centrifugal forces that at work. And again, you're not going to have a set direction. There's no uniform direction in that kind of model. Every aspect of it is just nonsensical. But again, I can see with the Big Bang thing, they know that they had to have an initial push source. They had to have something that put things into motion. And then, the rest of it's just abstract from there. But again, for me, it's either something flowing inwards and trying to work through and down that gives us, our direction, that presses us against the earth so that we'll get that resistance, or it's the fucking earth that's in motion. There is no other way for me for it to be. So
there has to be a push, there has to be an impact, there has to be a pressure on a surface area.
Yeah.
That's all we ever see, and anything else is magical. And they can tell me all kinds of stories, whatever they want, from dark matter to I know where they're attaching the geometry to it. It's exactly what you're saying, where they spin it in a circle.
Yeah.
Right? Where they bring in, the geometry of circles, and that's where they can change planar into spherical geometry, which is just another form of two-dimensional geometry. Right? That circle, the bigger it gets, it just turns into a line.
Yeah.
Right? So to speak. So anyway, but that's where they attach the geometry to it, and then they can play with the geometrical axioms to bend space-time, to stretch your granny's knickers, you know what I mean? That's where they can do all these things. But that's different from, proportions and ratios in the physical world.
Yeah.
That's the demonstration. That's the practical part.
That's that.
And everything else is just, interpretations, man-made interpretations of lights in the sky and stuff like that. And all these explanations are so unsatisfactory to me, Dale. Absolutely. No. I mean, there were days gone by where I thought I knew it all, and I would have been perfectly happy to listen to another professor talking the same old shite with some new theory. I mean, they bombard me with papers. I'm subscribed to a couple of these academia things, and there's people writing papers, and they're all building on these labels of descriptions of somebody's interpretation of a consensus of. You know what I mean? It's all just shite, Dale, right? Exactly. Nobody's getting to the nub of the fucking question like you two, and bringing it back to real simple that everybody can understand.
Physics, actual physics, physicality.
Actual physics, exactly, not mathematical physics.
Exactly. Right? Well, this is a difference. All they've got is these this language, this linguistic aspect to it. There's no practical reference for it. There's no demonstrations for what the stuff that they're invoking. It's nonsensical and it's contrary to everything else that I can practically reference. So something's wrong. Either reality's lying to me or these fuckers are lying.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I know which one it is.
Exactly.
And one other thing that's kind of, cropped up in my mind in the last couple of weeks was, how in mathematical physics, at least, again, going back to the ratios of 10 to 1 or 100 to 1 or, 1,000 to 1, how they come up with these immense numbers, right? Like 10 to the 37 billion light years away. And then the really small numbers, again, so small, and that all to me is just a manipulation of ratios, right? Whether it's 100 to 1 or 1,000 to 1 or 10,000 to 1, just depends on the scale that I choose, Dale.
Yeah.
It's a mathematical choice, right?
Yeah.
So my feeling is that these things are actually much closer to us than we realize. I'm of the opinion that they're actually just outside our sensory perception. They're not 10 to the 37 away, but the answer is just outside, if you know what I mean, Dale. And that they play and they give us all these big numbers and send us off into, infinite space, because I think the answers are much closer to home.
Yeah.
If I look at things like whatever Royal Rife and his optical equipment, or Keeley, when they're talking about, vibratory physics and cavitation and acoustics, all these things are just out with our audible range, but they still have a massive effect on the physical world. Yeah. So, my feeling is that, they tell us these stories because they know the answer's very close to us and we might find out.
Yeah.
Well, that's just a bit of speculation on my part.
Aye. Well, for me, there has to be something that is encompassing all of this. I spoke about that the last time, prime mover, ether, whatever anybody wants to call it. That all has to be, connected by some fabric or some thing that's there. We don't know exactly what that is right now, but it has to be there. Because again,
you can't divorce yourself from physical reality.
No.
Then you're just in metaphysics.
Yeah.
And then classify it as such. Come open, put it on the table, and we can discuss, speculate and metaphysics all the time, Dale. But don't sell it to me as the real life. No.
And that's my problem. It's been sold and packaged as if it's factual and real and relevant, in particular to fucking vulnerable children who are just adapted enough to be able to question these things fucking properly. It's just bombarding them with pseudo-intellectual garbage that fucking seems, right, and it's stamped with an authoritative approach. And that's just bullying. That's cult-like mentality, and I'm opposed to any of that. So fuck them. I think it's going to be questioned, and these types of questions that we're discussing, this is what I'm going to take to the universities the next time,
Yeah. And the problem is the innocent ones involved. When I say innocent, nobody's innocent. Everybody has an active choice to make, right? But are the ones that are in the cult of repetition, because they're not even, applying any critical thought, Dale.
No.
I would have counted myself to that one too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just going in and the cult of repetition, appearing to be smart, pretending to be smart.
Yeah.
Not thinking you're smart.
Exactly.
And having that, how should I say, the ability and the rhetoric around that specific language, most on paper and little symbols, right? You never talked a lot. No. If you were to ask a mathematician what do all these symbols mean, he would have real difficulty transporting you and giving you a good physical analogy. Yeah. And that's sad. Yeah. Right? Because he's so far away from the real world that, he's lost it. And that's where they're all at when they invoke that stuff. Yeah.
So for all the heliocentric globe people out there that are paying attention to this, for me you have to specify and you have to be informing people about what you mean when you're invoking language like attract and pull, and you use them and explain to people that they're descriptors of direction. They're not a force. It's not the force that makes things move. That's what they need to clarify. And make sure that they're
it's a description of an effect based on the only four quantities there are there.
Yeah.
Length, surface, volume, and time. And then you take number and you play with that and you count the differences and the proportions between these four physical things, right? And then when you've got the numbers attached, you then take ratios of the numbers. And that's where you then attach a label to the ratio and off you go. You've got little g instead of something that is actually measuring distance over time, i.e. the way it falls.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a label describing an effect. There's actually nothing there. It's not an existing thing that, as you say, can magically pull or, tentacles or sends wee harpoon darts.
Exactly.
It's not there, guys. Oh, fuck.
And this is what I keep trying to point out. That's the absurdity when I'm using the invisible tentacles, because it's a descriptor, to be able to show people that there must be something like that going on. You can't just have this nothing in between and achieving motion. It's fucking absurd.
No, absolutely. I mean, there was one I was out playing a round of golf. And I've said this to you before. Golf's, the ideal direct realist. That's the wrong word to use. Ideal.
Aye.
It's a real direct realist sport because you're confronted with all these mechanical principles all the time. So I was thinking of when you grip a golf club, Dale.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll put it in the camera here. But you grip a golf club so that the hey, how you doing, wee man? All right.
His face is all better now, isn't it?
Hey. You banged your head. You're looking sound. He recovered the wee man, did he?
Aye, he did, really quickly, aye. He's still got the issue with the tooth, the bone bit of the gum, but we'll see. We'll just need to play it by ear and see what happens with that. But anyway, you were saying the golf.
Aye, back to the golf. So you grip the golf club and your fingers are on the other side of the club, just like the door handle, right? So, and you basically get the plane of the back of your hand parallel to the plane of the club face. But the whole thing is basically a double pendulum setup. You've got a wrist cock here. I mean, and then the first pendulum's your shoulder to your arm. The next pendulum's the club. Yeah. And this whole thing is attached to a frame, right, which is my shoulder. Yeah. And it's planted with 2 feet on it like an oil donkey. Do you know what I mean? This whole thing is a mechanical construct, and I'm part of it when I'm setting up to hit a golf ball. And, golf swingers will talk about, I pulled the club through the ball. And I was thinking about that too. That's just a description. If you actually look at what is physically, mechanically happening, you've got this mechanical frame with a double pendulum hinge on it, right? And the mechanics of your arm and the way things are happening, you're pushing the club through it. Yeah. Or if you want to talk about the pull, it's the same pull, in here, what do I call it, inverted commas, as the door handle. Yeah. It's a push from the other side. Yeah. If you take the direction into account, then the applied pressure is on the other side and it's going in that direction. Exactly. It's still a push. Exactly. That is still the definition of a push. The pull is just another way of saying that and confusing people. Exactly. So, but anyway, the golf swing, if anybody, if you think about it, anybody who plays golf, if they just go through all the motions in their head, they'll recognize that there's no pulling in it. Yeah. Right? It's all the golfers out there should be flat earthers long ago, if you ask me. Well, realists. Hey, anybody out there, tell all your buddies on the golf course to look at the level tees, the flat water, the level water, and the mechanics of pull motion against push. Yeah? Exactly. Pull does not exist. Exactly.
So that's it. I just wanted to clarify that again for people, and I'm going to keep clarifying it as long as I see the intellectually dishonest that keep invoking these things. And trying to assert that pull somehow something that achieves motion or whatever, because it's total and utter crap. So I just wanted to clarify that. But
you need to look at the whole circumstances of the whole, if you look at the human body and the frame, we're set up, we're a mechanical machine, Dale, right? Yeah. We've got these arms. I mean, everything that you see in engineering is basically copying the physical body. Yep. Whether it's the robots building cars on the Volkswagen line, do you know what I mean? Yep. All these robotics are just showing the mechanics, and they've learned off of our own physical constitution.
Levers and inclined planes, mate. It's all comes down to that. Something pressing on something else, and it needs something to resist it, or you're not going to achieve motion. That's why, like the set thing with the golf club, made of certain materials. There's ridges in it, there's ridges in your finger. These things lock into each other and apply a pressure so that you've got a good friction so that you can maintain the grip. Grease up the fucking rod, so that there's a film on there where there's no inclined planes so that you can have friction or resistance, and you're just going to slip right off the fucking thing. This is it. It's simple. So. Yep.
And again, that's just, all these things is what I mean when I say the quantification. So mathematics is all about quantification. And quantification is the mapping of our sensory experiences and observations to those objects of thought that we call quantities. Yeah? And it has to be attached to a substance, and you can't forget your own role within it. Hey, Emma, how you doing?
Hi, Gav, you're right.
Nice sound.
Right. Exactly, mate. Exactly. So, well, guys, I'm just going to hide you for 2 seconds, mate. I'm going to go and check the emails here, see what I've...
Go for it.
I'll
take a wee break.
Once I see what's happening here with some of the emails, I'll talk about the channel and what's going to be happening from here on in. I've got one request. So right now, I'm not interested in any of the globe trolls. I'm not interested in discussing any. I'm not interested in discussing, people's tit for tats with each other. I don't care about any of it at all. I'm not putting my attention to any of it. I'm not going to be inviting any of it. None of it whatsoever. I'm beyond it. And I'll explain more about that once I get to the end of this. So, let me just see here. If we get any of these trolls in, I'm just going to instantly shut the hangout down and I'll start another one. I'm not giving them any time. Just so you know, Gav, if you're there, I'll start another one up. So, any questions? I can't believe these people are still going on about vacuums and all that shite. Hi, Elisa. No, I've not got any patience for it, Tanya. As I say, in the earlier times, there was a battle and I took a certain demeanour. And I take responsibility for that. I get caught up in that demeanour of the fuck you attitude, which I thought was important and relevant at the time. And I still have that. I still have serious contempt for liars and bullshitters. And I will display that. But I'm just not going to put myself in positions where I have to anymore. I'm not interested in any of these gobshites. They've got nothing to offer me. They can make content and they can practically demonstrate whatever it is they're going to practically demonstrate. They can address it to me or whatever, and then I'll address that back. I'm not having tit for tat and time wasting going on in my watch. It's just not happening. I had somebody here today to see it, Spirit of Longthorn, so I'm saying hopefully, they'll buy it, but at the same time I'm like, oh, I don't. But if he comes back and says he wants it, then I have to let it go. I'll wash it off tomorrow, Pico. I'll get in touch with you, mate. I've just not a chance. I am starving them. Beyond belief. I'm not getting any of it for me. No more. Can I practically demonstrate a 25,000 mile flat plane? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I can start to construct a model that contains all the elements of your reality, can you? No, you can't. You need to make it out of plastic, plaster, plasticine, cartoons, pens. You can't depict it using natural substances. I can. So go away. Right, Gently's saying yes. Gently's going to go and produce a miniature model of the globe Earth, utilising the substances of our actual reality. He's going to put it all together and he's going to show us it, suspended in a vacuum. Huh? It's a magician. Still a no-show so far from the requested link. Anybody else that's requesting, you need to send an email to the above address. Well, hopefully I'll get a rest, Elisa. Any rich people out there that want to donate something so that I can get a break, then by all means, get in touch. Oh, that, I'm selling the fucking bike. Let's check here again. Let's check. So it was Mohammed that was asking for the link. It's been sent. And just click that to see if that's working. Right, it's working. I don't need all this stuff up here. So any questions then from anybody else? There's no requests from anybody to discuss any of it. So the only thing I can offer is questions from the chat box. If anybody's got queries about what's been discussed here this evening, anything you want to add, now's the time to do so. Hopefully Tanya. I was going to draw a wee diagram, just another wee quick point. I've spoken about this so many times about an aircraft on your horizon flying over you, and that people think that, you know, that there's an arc or a curve going on. It's the same with the luminaries when you're looking at the sun. Do you think that you can see the sun going down, you know, thousands of miles of curvature? Or do you think an aeroplane has descended from above you at 35,000 feet until it gets to your horizon, that the curve that it's following of the Earth, it's actually descended in 20 minutes, you know, 35,000 feet from your point? People just don't think properly about you know, what they're looking at. They just hear things, see what they want to see, and invoke all sorts of fucking nonsense.
Yeah, Dylan, I'm back.
All right, mate.
And another wee anecdote. I had some friends round last night, you know, people of, well, kind of neighbours who have heard of the topic, but, you know, haven't really dived in. And they brought somebody brand new along with them, along the lines of, Gavin, tell them something, you know. So it was really difficult to try and, you know, how should I say, describe the journey in a 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah.
But it went something like this, right? I said, obviously, a creation is something, an intelligent design is something that I have come to believe. Mm-hmm. And I've come to believe that through seeing through the nonsense that's being pushed to me that is physically impossible and which contradicts my everyday experience of life. Yeah. Example, water, example, pressure.
Yeah.
And then I just went on briefly to really have a real good laugh myself at all the stories that they tell us there, because they seem to have pushed it so far that you just can't believe it anymore, right? Aye. And if you give some of the examples, you know, the nonsense where they lost 28 tons of telemetry data from the so-called moon trip, you know? Aye. And then the excuses they come up with, like, you know, oh, we've lost the technology and we can't reproduce it. Yeah. It's like somebody saying, you know, all right, you know, I know how to build cars and electric motors, but I've forgotten how a bicycle works, you know? Yeah. I mean, fuck off.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So I was actually having real fun, you know, throwing in some of these things as well, but it probably lasted about a minute. You can't do it in 30 seconds. No. But no. The guy was... I mean, he went away with a big puzzle in his face and a lot of fucking wheels turning, Dale, I'll tell you.
What's that,
because
man?
Everybody else then chipped in and started talking about it. And I tried to correct sometimes the misinformation that they've grabbed onto, but that's difficult because there's so much here.
Yeah.
There's so much confusion and deliberate deceit and,
Exactly.
even these ego attachments and personality things, all play a role and people having to let go of that fish. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was a fun evening.
Yeah, good.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in because I can remember myself laughing so hard.
But that's important. It's important though, Gav. They wee quick interactions. I was saying about that being, active and planting seeds. You have to, choose your seeds wisely, choose your arrows wisely, and try and get them in there as best as you can.
Yep.
So people really need to think about it and their approach to it. And what points?
I think the best way is always to tell it, as you've said this before many times, they'll tell it from your own experience because that's the only thing you can do with any authenticity.
Yeah.
Because everything else is just a repetition of something you might have heard.
Exactly.
So the best way is to explain to the people how you came about it yourself.
Yeah.
What are the things that you questioned, what you experienced. Obviously throwing in a little bit of your own life history along with that, if they don't know you.
Yeah.
Right. But that's always the best way to how should I say, show somebody another point of view.
Yeah.
And that is often enough to get them to thinking about their point of view and maybe what they should change about it or look at it differently. So
exactly.
I'm not saying anything new here, but
no, and that's it, and always maintaining that you're not appealing to anybody else other than yourself and your experience and what you can demonstrate for yourself and to that other person. Make sure you bind them to the same that same bar, because once they start to invoke appeals to consensus and authority and nonsense, and you can keep bringing them back. Say, "Oh, I'm only offering you what I know. I'm not telling you stories of hearsay and what Jim McGlumfer told me, or any of that stuff." So, right.
Absolutely, one of the first principles of any conversation is that the question that you ask, what level, do people need, right, to for things to be objectively true. Having people think about that question and what their answer would be and what it should be and what it currently is and what is nonsense. That's a fundamental part of, starting to question your own mind.
Well, anybody that's applying logic and any kind of reasonable discernment would have to come back with that response, a practical reference, something that you can actually physically demonstrate to me.
Exactly. What else have you got in common with everybody else, You can't choose something that is not common to us. How are you going to get any agreement? It's nonsense.
But I have had people in that agreement, and then they'll automatically start invoking fantasy. You go, show me it. Oh, well, I'm not a scientist. I can't show you. Is a scientist showing you it? No, he's telling you it.
I know somebody who read a book by somebody who was his uncle's brother. He says he can do it. Aye, right.
Because that denotes intelligence. In this day and age, who can you recite? What book can you pull up? What piece of text can you get from Wikipedia? What can you remember that you were told? Is that intelligence? Is it fuck?
Oh, is it fuck? No. Again, I laugh at these things too. We've talked about this too, but this quantification of things that you can't really quantify.
Yeah.
We know we can quantify substances.
Yeah.
They have shape, form, attributes like rigidity, stiffness, smooth, hard, rough,
Yeah.
All these properties are there. How they fall in different mediums, right?
Yeah.
These are all, properties of the matter and its surroundings. But when they start to talk about trying to quantify things that, are not part of that domain, Dale, then that's when you have to start believing in their assumptions.
Yeah.
And that's where you tied up into debates and all that pish, and not things that are objectively true.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Have we got a visitor?
That might be Andrew. Andrew, how you doing? Sorry, just 2 seconds, Andrew. I don't know how you pronounce this name. Taish or Taish or whatever. I'll thanks for the email. I'll have a wee read at that. Obviously, you've asked to keep it stum, so I'll read it and I'll get back to you. Cheers for that, Andrew. How you doing, mate?
Good, mate. Yeah. I've just wanted to say something on top of what Gav was saying. Just something that I've sort of realised recently and doing a lot more, been getting a lot more back into engineering and not farting around with knobbies on YouTube and your stupid things. What do you think your satellite dashboard's at? I mean, fuck. So, in doing some fabricating and stuff and going back into some of the things I was doing in engineering and using CAD again, nothing works in it without points of origin, planes, solid bodies, surfaces, defining dimensions. It just all falls apart without any of that. Yeah. So, and as I'll be doing some of it, I've actually been putting a few pieces together, a few gimmicks for P900s and that might come in handy for some people. So if anyone's interested, I'll be sharing the files. I I've got access to a 3D printer. Excellent. And I also might do a few little examples of CAD and how it works, a few little shortcuts for people, because it's quite easy to access and you don't need a university degree to work it.
I'm just getting your channel here. I'm just going to post you into the chat box, mate, for anybody that's looking. So Andrew that's just speaking there, that's his channel linked in the chat box there. You still there, guys? Eh?
Yeah, yes, that was just something I realised again using it, after not using it for about 10 years, because I used to demonstrate it. Going back into it again, unless you have points of origins, constraints, dimensions, solid planes, bodies, surfaces, none of it works, it'll all fall apart.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the difference when physicists talk about what they perceive the world to be. They talk in terms of their own definitions of measurements and of ratios and of standards and of units. And what they've done is apparently mapped for the whole of humankind our, how should I say, common sense, direct reality into these variables and quantities and units and standards and measures. And they're selling us that package as the way to view the world. And I'm not on board with that anymore. No. I learned it. It doesn't apply to the cosmological narrative. The only things that work in that whole bundle of physical measurements and quantities is things in the real world, right?
Yeah, physical
and everything
engineering.
else. Exactly. Yep.
That's the only thing I place where I think there should be standards. There's the standard, and it's the only way that you can have a nut fit a bolt, and someone can produce a 10 mil bolt, and someone can produce a 10 mil nut, and because there's a standard, and it's agreed upon, and that's the only place for it. I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, you need some first principle to kick off. It's a bit like Eric's video. I don't know if you saw. Eric did a compilation video. Eric Dubé, I'm talking about here. With to do with the law of the land and all that, right. As opposed to the law of the sea.
Yeah.
The law of the sea being, the uniform convention that everybody's agreed on, but the law of the land can be different according to culture, location, the people.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like that, I thought, what you're saying, we have to agree on some mapping of the real world to these measurements and units. And if we get that wrong, then the thing that can tell us any old shite. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where we have to hold them to the truth part, and get it out in the open that is the point of discussion.
Yeah, I also found it very difficult to find, impossible, to find a pull mechanism in CAD. Anything similar would have been extrude. Everything else was prep.
Snap to guidelines.
And even when you're mechanically operating it, it was all just based. It is all just based on pressure on planes and surfaces.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are no other physical quantities.
I will be doing some demonstrations of how, some simple things for CAD if people are interested. I'll probably put them separately. Yeah.
Nice one, mate.
Anyway, great discussion, guys.
Cheers for
killing it as always.
Cheers, Andrew.
Cheers, Andrew. I look forward to your uploads, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you guys.
Cheers, bud.
You know,
Aye.
I just on that point, you know, so I quite enjoy using some of these tools and computer methods as well. But we've talked about this too, Dale. There's no replacement for getting a compass and a ruler and a pen and a plane to put it on, and then actually going through the motions yourself. There's a deeper understanding comes with that because it's linked already to the physical world, if you know what I mean, and the fact that you're going to have to build or create or model something, you know, with real substances. That's, if you like, where Euclidean bridges, you know, that part of numbers to you know, practicality.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, well, I'll get through what I wanted to get through, and hopefully it's clear for people, you know, and they can see the bullshit and ask the questions when they're invoking these phrases, this use of language, and question it properly, you know, because it's not on. So hopefully people get used to that. Again, I'm sure we'll have to revisit it again in the future.
Break it down, didn't you? And
I will. But that brings me to, you know, I'll probably just finish off, Gav. I'm just going to talk a wee bit about the channel and what's going to be happening from here on in.
Right, go for it, my man.
And, you know, some bits and bobs that have happened previously and whatever else, and then I'll probably just sign off. So
I'll click myself out there.
Aye,
see you, my man. See everybody. Speak to you soon.
Cheers for coming on, mate. Appreciate it. So, I'll just take it rid of all this because I don't need it. Don't need that. This. That was another interesting thing. I should have spoke to you about that, Gav, when you were on. Thomas Paine. Born Thomas Paine, February 9th, 1737. So I'm just reading this, so, you know, take it as whatever. June the 8th, 1809. Was an English-born American political activist, philosopher, political theorist and revolutionary. He authored the two most influential pamphlets at the start of the American Revolution and inspired the Patriots in 1776 to declare independence from Great Britain. His ideas reflected Enlightenment era ideals of transnational human rights. Historian Saul Padavor described him as a corset maker by trade, a journalist by profession, and a propagandist by inclination. Born in Thetford, an English county of Norfolk, Paine migrated to the British American colonies in 1774 with the help of Benjamin Franklin. Arriving just in time to participate in the American Revolution, virtually every rebel read or listened to a reading of his powerful pamphlet Common Sense. Proportionally the all-time best-selling American title, which crystallised the rebellious demand for independence from Great Britain. So, check it out. I'm going to read a wee bit more into this and see where it throws up. Anyhow, just shut it there. I forgot to talk about that. Don't need that. Don't need that. What was I looking at here? Don't need that. So, channel. What's going to be happening? Obviously, it's going to be a format like this. What I'm going to be doing moving forward is that I'm not going to need moderators anymore. So, to everybody who has been moderating, it's much appreciated, and I thank you very much. But what I want now is to display free expression. I want these characters and everybody to see it for exactly for what it is. So there's not going to be any need for anybody to moderate it. Other aspects of that is people attaching and associating different things to different people. What people need to understand is that I stand as an individual. I can only represent myself, and the content that I offer on this platform is purely going to be about that. It's not going to be about people's and social interactions and any of that stuff anymore. I'm not interested in any of it. I've wasted enough time. There's been too much strain in regards to relations with people, and the miscommunication that's went on. I never wanted it to get to that point. I never wanted to be falling out with people, to have, you know, rifts with people and people trying to antagonise each other and have battles of whatever. What people need to understand is that I never intended for any of that. Communication breaks down with people, and it's up to people if they want to resolve any of these things. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's fine. So for everybody that's been involved up to this point, I appreciate their time and their efforts and the contributions that they made to it. But what I need to do is what I should have done from the off is just remain as me, and that's all I can represent. So hopefully, you know, everybody understands this. And mods, obviously, it's, you know, no reflection. It's nothing personal about any of you guys or anything like that. It's just the way I need to move forward from here on in. As I say, relations have been strained. There's been some scenarios recently with guys like Marshall and Dan again, and some things have came to light. You know, I spoke on the other channel the other night and made reference to sock accounts that were going on. Now, I've had discussions with people, and it turns out that it's not the case. And I made some insinuations and assertions about what actually went on there, and I apologise for that. We're not all perfect and things happen, but again, this is the problem when it comes to the social aspect of YouTube's and social media. It's very, very difficult for people to understand where each other's coming from on a social level, which again for me is why I need to get back to maintaining this as purely about objectivity, purely about objective inquiry and objective content. The rest of it just causes a strain and muddies the whole thing. That can then create a situation for players to get involved and start sowing seeds between peoples. And I don't want to facilitate any of that. I just want to eradicate any option that there is for any of that. So that's what's going to be happening from here on in. Again, I'm not interested in the social aspects and the tittle-tattle between people. I'm not interested in the globe trolls, these, you know, cult zealots coming in and constantly trying to antagonise. This is not about persons. This is about objective inquiry and should remain so. Any of the rest of it that's focused on persons, if it's not a questioning of the person's content, I ain't interested in it. Okay? So it has to be concise. It has to be questioning of content that's being offered up, or I'm not having any part of it. So if it's an inquiry into the nature of our reality, or highlighting sophistry or bullshit, that being the content of any particular person's, I would be interested in it. Anything else, I'm not interested in it. Okay? Again, I'm going to reiterate, there's no ill will from me. There's no, you know, bad intent from me towards anybody that I've interacted with on here previously, anybody that's been involved with me previously. I wish you no harm, I wish you no ill intent, I wish you only the best. And I mean that, for, you know, sincerely. Again, I take responsibility for me losing aspects of myself through this process. If you understand that it's a strenuous process. There's a lot of antagonisation. There's loads of bullshit coming your way, you know, my way, particular threats, you know, attacks on my children, attacks on my family, you know, all sorts of bullshit. So what I need to do is just pull myself right back to me and focus purely on what content I can offer. So I've got some projects that I'm working on, that I'm going to be working on as well, and I just want to provide content and hopefully some empowering stuff for people, you know, whatever it's going to be. So, and also, you know, I've got a wee bit of artistic, you know, indulgence that I want to get involved in that I can apply to this as well. So I need to remove my attention from all the social bullshit that's going on. I really don't give a fuck about it anymore. I'm not caring about it. It's a much bigger picture going on. It's too important for me. And it's, you know, we have to get back to being activists on regards to the content and what's objectively true and pointing out the bullshit. So any of that's going on, I'm all for it. Any of the rest of it, I'm not giving it any attention. Not interested in it. Okay? So hopefully everybody understands that. And again, you know, I really do appreciate everybody. It's no biggie, you know, that I'm not going to have moderators on the platform or anything. Everybody's still here that can interact. Having a wrench doesn't mean anything, you know. So I'm sure, you know, people will get that. I want an honest representation. I want these people to display exactly what they are and the bullshit that we have to put up with. All right. So hopefully, you know, people get that and you get where I'm coming from. So all I'm interested in is providing what I can provide, what should have been maintained from the off, but you lose yourself, you get drawn in with stuff. And again, I accept responsibility for all that shite, you know. But what I don't ever apologise for is the contempt that I hold and what I display for manipulators, bullies, bullshitters, liars, right? I'm never going to be passive and lovey-dovey towards that. That's where I draw the line in the sand. Okay? They're always going to get vicious, horrible contempt. Okay? If they're coming and they're mannered and they're articulate and they're offering specifics about content and aspects of objective inquiry, then they're going to be met by the same. So, to neutralise it, that's why I'm not giving my attention to any of the trolls or any of the social bullshit that goes on, because I don't have the patience for it. I'm no that type of guy. That's why I've been reclusive and an introvert the majority of my life, because I can't deal with people's bullshit. Okay? I can only deal with rationale, logic, reason. Right? I can't deal with unhinged, emotionally impulsive, you know, agenda-driven bullshitters. I don't have a fuse for it. And I'm just going to keep displaying vicious contempt for it. Okay. Now, I've said things previously about people's and the trolls and the zealots. I don't regret any of it. The other people who've been involved, I have got regrets and I do apologise for it. Again, you just have to understand that this process is not an easy thing to get through. And I say this from the off. We don't have a book, a rule book, and a process of how to get through it. Because as far as I'm concerned, this hasn't happened before. So it's all learning and we can all get on board. Don't let the dividers sow the seeds of division between us. Speak to each other directly. If you think there's an issue, you think there's some fuckery going on, go straight to the source and have it out there. Okay? But you have to be able to do that by articulating yourself with specifics and maintaining that kind of bar, right? If you don't and it's all emotionally impulsive stuff, as I have done, then communication gets frayed even further. And clarity's no had, and then again, the dividers can come in and sow seeds. Right? So you need to be cautious of that. Again, always erring caution in what you're getting involved in regards to online. People can appear to be this, that, and the other, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't open yourself up wholly. Always maintain an air of skepticism and discernment. Right? Again, go straight to the sources of people for whatever's going on. Don't listen to hearsay, Chinese whispers, propagandists, bullshitters, because that's the games they're playing to sow divisions amongst real genuine people who are passionate about truth and objective inquiry. So again, this talk of unity, that stuff has to be eradicated and people have to be unified in regards to objectivity, okay, and how to articulate it and how to highlight the bullshit that's being applied to objective inquiry. That's how we're going to get unity and real progress. All the tittle-tattle of social interactions and these clowns coming in and sowing seeds of division, it's just going to fray everything. Right? So I've learned for that. And I encourage you to learn from it. So this is why I have to pull back and focus solely on me. Right? And the platform that I have and what I can offer here. And again, this is only a small fraction of it. This thing here. The biggest portion of it's out there. What are you going to do to achieve and make change? How are you going to be a proper activist? How are you going to interact with your fellow human being and make the difference? That's where the focus needs to be. So, anyway, hopefully everybody gets that. As I say, no ill will, no ill intent behind any of it. I wish everybody all the best and I appreciate everybody's contribution that's came to this platform and who probably will still be involved in the future. But just no moderators or any of that stuff. I can only be me. I can only represent me. No associations, no cults, no gangs, no moving in groups. That's not who I am, and I don't want to be associated with any of it. So, The other channel is the True Expression and the homeschooling and life experience, which I will get onto in the coming future. So individual responsibility, that's it. That's a read. It's exactly like Lisa Hawk, it's the exact same thing, you know, it's always the problem. Until we get to a level of being able to communicate each other with using logic, discernment, reason, and having the articulative skills to be able to communicate properly. All this social trife, stature, pissing contests, ego, one-upmanship, it's just going to destroy everything all the time. Okay? So people need to start learning how to identify that and to eradicate it. And if any of that's going on, as I say, you need to be able to point it out and go straight to the sources of where they're trying to sow the division between. Okay? Anywho, you're going on and on. Aye. Right. Appreciated everybody. I'm off. I need to get the dog out and get some food. So, cheers everybody. I'll see you very soon.